It starts quietly, almost too quietly. No one sees it, no one hears it, but you feel it, every single day. Maybe it's in the way you smile when your world is falling apart, or the way you say, "I'm fine," even when something inside you is breaking in slow motion. Maybe it's in those nights when you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, asking questions no one knows you carry. Because some heartbreak doesn't scream, some heartbreak learns to whisper. And if you're here right now, maybe you know exactly what that kind of silence feels like. Silent heartbreak. It's one of the most invisible forms of suffering in the human world. It's not the loud kind that kind people cry about in public, the kind friends rush to soothe. It's the quiet kind, the heartbreak that slips into your bones and becomes part of who you are. Psychologists sometimes call it ambiguous grief, the pain you carry without clear permission to mourn. But in the language of everyday life, it feels more like this: that thing I never talk about, the wound no one ever asks about, the story I learned to bury because the world seemed too loud to care. People who carry silent heartbreak don't always realize they're doing it. It becomes a habit, almost a personality. You become the one who holds everything together for everyone else, the strong one, the steady one, the one who listens, supports, gives, absorbs while your own heart keeps collecting fractures like fragile glass. The psychology behind silent heartbreak is deeply intertwined with survival. Somewhere along the way, you learned that expressing pain had consequences. Maybe it made someone angry. Maybe no one listened. Maybe it turned into another problem for you to fix. Maybe the people who were supposed to care simply didn't. So you adapted. You learned to hide your heartbreak behind competence, humor, empathy, or perfection. You created a mask so convincing that even you started believing it. And yet, the heartbreak didn't disappear. It just went underground, into the quiet spaces inside you, into the small moments like when someone asks if you're okay and you almost tell the truth, but the words get trapped in your throat. Or when you're surrounded by people but still feel impossibly alone. Silent heartbreak isn't just pain, it's identity. It's a way of navigating the world with an invisible weight strapped to your chest. It's the grief that lives inside a smile, the ache behind kindness, the exhaustion behind strength. And if you've carried something like this maybe for years, maybe since childhood, today's video is for you, because I want to take you on a journey into the psychology of people who live with heartbreak so quietly the world forgets to notice. I want to show you where this begins, what it does to your mind, why you became the way you are, and how to finally stop carrying heartbreak that was never meant to be carried alone. So take a breath, slow down, let's walk into the quiet parts of your heart, the parts you've learned to protect with silence. Every silent heartbreak has a beginning, a moment when something inside you cracked, and you didn't know how to speak about it. Maybe your story began in childhood. You were the kid who noticed everything. You felt the tension in the room before anyone spoke. You sensed when your parents were fighting even when they insisted everything was fine. You saw the sadness in someone's eyes long before you understood what sadness meant. Children like you become emotional antennas. You learned early that other people's feelings were louder than your own, that your needs were negotiable, that love sometimes came with conditions, that disappointment was easier to swallow than express, and heartbreak, it showed up before you even had the language to name it. Maybe it was the parent who was physically present but emotionally unreachable. You'd sit near them, waiting for a connection that never arrived, hoping one day they'd finally see you, but they were too tired, or too wounded, or too broken themselves. Maybe it was the friend who left without explanation, the sibling who made you feel small, the first person you ever loved who didn't love you back in the same way. Or maybe it was the slow, painful realization that you were always the one holding more, caring more, investing more than anyone else around you. And because no one asked, "What happened to you?" Because no one said, "I can see you're hurting," you learned to hold your heartbreak quietly. You didn't want to be a burden. You didn't want to be dramatic. You didn't want to make things harder. So you swallowed your heartbreak the way someone swallows medicine, quickly, silently, hoping it would help. But heartbreak doesn't dissolve that easily. It settles. It sinks. It becomes sediment inside you. It becomes the reason you apologize too much, the reason you overthink, the reason you stay awake, replaying conversations, the reason you feel like you're too much or not enough, depending on the day. You didn't wake up one morning and choose to become quiet about your pain. The world trained you into silence. Every time you reached out for comfort and didn't receive it, your heart tightened. Every time you cried alone at night because you didn't want anyone to hear, your heart hardened. Every time you carried someone else's emotional chaos, your heart grew more exhausted. And eventually, heartbreak became something you expected. It became normal, predictable, an old friend you never wanted but couldn't get rid of. The silent heartbreak you carry today is not weakness. It is the echo of every moment you needed someone and no one came. Every time you loved deeply but were met with indifference. Every time you broke quietly because breaking loudly wasn't allowed. This is where it begins. Not in the dramatic events, but in the small, invisible moments that taught you one lesson after another. My pain doesn't matter. My needs are too heavy. My feelings are too inconvenient. My heartbreak should stay hidden. And so you hid it. Not because you wanted to, but because you had no other choice. Silent heartbreak doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself in small behaviors, subtle patterns that look harmless from the outside, but feel suffocating on the inside. You might not even realize you're carrying heartbreak until you see yourself in these moments. You might walk into a room and immediately scan everyone's emotions before noticing your own. It's like your heart became an emotional thermostat adjusting itself to keep everyone else comfortable while you freeze in the cold. You might find yourself laughing at jokes that hurt you, smiling through comments that sting, pretending you're okay because you don't want anyone to worry. You might constantly replay conversations in your mind, analyzing your words, wondering if you sounded weird or needy or wrong. Silent heartbreak makes you treat your own voice like a threat. You might apologize for things that aren't your fault. The glass someone else broke, the feelings someone else projected, the storm someone else created. You might feel desperately lonely, even when surrounded by people who love you, because silent heartbreak creates a glass barrier. You see the world, but you don't feel part of it. You might give too much. You might give too much. Care too much. Because deep down, a part of you believes you must earn the affection others receive freely. You might avoid asking for help. Hyperindependence becomes your shield, because relying on others once led to disappointment, and disappointment became too painful to risk again. You might stay in relationships long after your heart knows it's over. Silent heartbreak teaches you endurance, not boundaries. You might feel a strange emptiness during happy moments, like you're watching your own life from the outside, like something is missing, but you don't know what. And perhaps the most painful sign of all, you grieve things while pretending you don't care. A rejection, a loss, a goodbye, a betrayal, a dream that didn't come true. You act like you've moved on, but inside, the wound never healed. Silent heartbreak doesn't look like crying. It looks like composure. It looks like strength. It looks like someone holding the entire world together while something inside them quietly falls apart. Even though silent heartbreak feels emotional, there's a deeply psychological and neurological foundation behind it. Researchers studying attachment theory note that children who grow up without consistent emotional support develop something called insecure attachment. This doesn't mean you're broken, it means your nervous system learned to survive unpredictability. Your brain became hypervigilant. Your amygdala, the part responsible for detecting emotional threats, became more sensitive. You started anticipating loss before it happened, reading microexpressions, adjusting yourself to avoid abandonment. In neuroscience, this is sometimes called emotional prediction modeling. Your brain constantly scans for patterns to prevent heartbreak from repeating. The studies from the Journal of Personality show that people who carry unprocessed emotional pain often develop something called compassion fatigue. You care deeply, but internally, you're exhausted. Your mirror neurons fire intensely. You feel other people's emotions as if they are your own. And with every emotional load you carry, your own unspoken heartbreak sinks deeper. Carl Jung would call this the shadow, the unacknowledged pain that shapes your behaviors from behind the curtain. Silent heartbreak becomes part of your shadow self, influencing your choices, your relationships, and even your sense of identity. Berkeley studies showed that chronic emotional suppression leads to physiological stress, affecting the immune system, sleep cycles, and cognitive clarity. When you hide heartbreak, your brain keeps storing it like unsorted files, waiting for a moment of safety that never comes. Psychologists also describe a phenomenon called self-gaslighting. When you invalidate your own emotions because others once did, you tell yourself, it wasn't that bad, I'm overreacting, I should be stronger. But inside, your inner child, the buried version of you, keeps whispering the truth. Silent heartbreak isn't weakness, it's conditioning. It's neurobiology. It's the survival strategy your mind built when expressing pain wasn't safe. Here's the part no one talks about. The part that's too heavy for everyday conversations. Silent heartbreak changes you. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but slowly, quietly, subtly. Like water shaping stone, you begin carrying worlds within yourself. Worlds no one knows about. Worlds that make you tired in a way sleep can't fix. You become the reliable one, the emotionally available one, the strong one, the person others lean on. But here's the dark truth. People rarely ask what it costs you to be this way. They see your calm, not the chaos beneath it. Your smile, not the hollow silence behind it. Your kindness, not the suffocating pressure that comes with always being there. When you carry silent heartbreak long enough, you start believing you don't deserve support. You settle for relationships where you give more than you receive. You accept friendships where no one checks on you. You tolerate love that feels almost, but not quite, like love. You learn to be grateful for crumbs, because crumbs are more than what you used to have. Silent heartbreak also creates emotional blind spots. You overlook red flags because you're afraid of losing people. You stay in situations that hurt because the fear of being alone feels worse. You become addicted to being needed, because being needed feels safer than being loved. And maybe the darkest truth of all, silent heartbreak convinces you that your sadness is too delicate, too private, too complicated for others to hold. So you hold it alone. Years pass, life moves, people come and go, but the heartbreak stays. Not as an open wound, but as a quiet ache, a subtle heaviness, a soft bruise that reacts to the lightest touch. And because no one sees it, because no one knows, you start to wonder if maybe this is just who you are. Someone meant to endure, someone meant to survive, someone meant to carry a weight they never deserved. But that is not the truth. That is the story silent heartbreak taught you, not the story you were meant to live. Let me tell you something important, something your younger self never heard. You are allowed to put the heartbreak down. You don't have to keep carrying it just because you've carried it for so long. Your strength, doesn't come from suffering in silence, comes from finally choosing to be gentle with your own heart. The path forward is not about forgetting the pain, it's about acknowledging it. It begins with recognition, whispering to yourself, something hurt me, and I never got to heal. This simple sentence can open doors that have been locked for years. Then comes permission, allowing yourself to feel what you've been suppressing, letting the inner child inside you, the buried one, finally speak. Shadow work can help you find the parts of yourself you hid, not to shame them, but to welcome them back home. Inner child healing lets you return to the moments where heartbreak began and offer yourself the comfort you never received. Setting boundaries allows you to love without losing yourself. It teaches others that your heart is precious, not disposable. And most importantly, learning how to ask for support gently, gradually shows your nervous system what safety feels like. It rewires your emotional patterns. It reminds your heart that it was never meant to carry everything alone. Healing silent heartbreak doesn't mean the pain disappears. It means you stop carrying it as your identity. It means you create space inside yourself for new beginnings, new love, new softness. You're not too broken. You're not too damaged. You're not too emotional. You're someone who learned to survive without help. But now, you don't have to. So here's what I want you to take with you as this video ends. You are not the heartbreak you carry. You are not the silence you were forced into. You are not the weight that someone else placed on your shoulders. You are a human being with a heart that has endured more than most people will ever understand. And you're still here, still trying, still feeling, still loving, still loving. That alone makes you extraordinary. You deserve softness. You deserve people who listen when your voice trembles. You deserve love that doesn't require you to shrink, hide, or pretend. And even if your heartbreak has been silent for years, your healing doesn't have to be. You've never had a safe place to fall apart. But you can create one now, slowly, gently, one honest moment at a time. Your story isn't over. Your heart isn't done. And the chapters ahead of you, if you choose them, can be filled with the kind of peace you never grew up with. You carried heartbreak in silence for so long. But you don't have to walk the rest of your life that way. This time, you get to write a different ending.